thank you for bringing a copy of the book.
You're welcome.
All right, so the purpose of the next, hopefully we can keep it to 45 minutes, 43 minutes, is to get your head around a unit internalization meeting with Joanna and make sure you're asking the best questions you can ask.
Okay.
Have you gotten a chance to look at Joanna's unit internalization documents?
Yes.
All right.
I looked at them and gave some feedback on them.
What were the quick hits, highs and lows of the feedback you gave?
Take a glance at it. Got it pulled up.
Yeah, let's do that first.
Yeah.
So I think for organization for this, we're gonna need Joanna's planning folder, her unit internalization documents, the unit internalization template, and that might be in either Grow or in the coaching documents.
Okay.
So let's just take a minute and get all that organized. And if you haven't used Grow yet, have you?
Yes.
Have you taken a look at the unit internalization meeting template in Grow? I think it's in there.
So I looked for it and I couldn't find it.
There's a lesson internalization.
Yeah, I saw that one.
But not a unit. So then we'll have to use the template, and I will email Matt to make sure that that gets into.
Okay, so looking at the feedback that I gave on Joanna's unit internalization, it looks like she did a lot of really thoughtful work to get the narratives written and the goals and standards set out. What we really zeroed in on was the aims, her unit calendar. I was noticing that some of the aims were not as strong as they could be. And the alignment of, now that I'm beginning to look at the lesson plans that she's making, the alignment of the aims and the lesson isn't always aligning. So like what she's teaching versus what her calendar says the focus is versus what is actually happening in class. And then I noticed that for some of them, the aim was just like students will be able to demonstrate mastery on a CCRS quiz, but I know that the CCRS quizzes are only like a few minutes, so she didn't have aims for what the rest of the class is going to look like, so that was some other feedback that I gave.
Okay, was there any more specificity about CCRS quizzes?
Not in those aims, it just said CCRS, and none of the minor summatives were linked in the unit internalization document, but I believe she's since added them to her planning folder somewhere. So they exist somewhere. Okay. But they're not like all there. It's just like she's doing it on like a week by week basis. But I don't know if that was, did we have to have them all done?
No. Okay. We should have had, I think, one.
Okay.
Or, no, we should have had them identified.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me see if she had them identified.
And you're looking at her aims?
Yes, I'm looking in her, the document is called English 3 Unit 0/1 Plan. Her internalization stuff looks different because she was one of the group that was pulled for like the curriculum, like not like AP for all.
So she has minor summatives identified. She has the week they were administered, and she has the standards.
Okay.
Is what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
An assessment summary. Do you see that?
Yeah.
Okay. So it looks like she has them.
Okay.
And then she has links to
the exams.
Yeah. Cool. All right. So based on the feedback you gave, what you're seeing in her unit internalization documents. If you pull up the unit internalization meeting protocol, do you have that? This was from our last ICPD, or second to last.
Here it is.
What do you need to think through as a coach before going into that meeting?
I need to have 1 to 2 focus areas that we need to zero in on. I need to look at her, according to this document, I need to be looking at her assessments. And I did look at her assessments and I noticed she doesn't have FRQs. It's all multiple choice. So that's something we need to address.
What do you mean? Say more.
Well, maybe not, because her performance goal is tied to the ACT, which doesn't require. Okay, yeah, I was thinking AP alignment, but since her students, ACT, so multiple choice is fine. I just need to make sure that her multiple choice is doing what it's supposed to do, like assessing what it's supposed to assess.
Absolutely. Also, does she have answers for all of her multiple choice questions?
She didn't, but I gave her feedback on that, and let's see if that has been addressed. She has the keys usually at the bottom. Okay, for her Unit 0 exam, she does. She's got answers for all of them. And for Unit 1, scroll. Unit 1, it looks like she does not. Wait, maybe. Has she highlighted? No. I don't think, it doesn't look like she has answers for all of them in Unit 1. She's got some of them, like 21 through 30, it looks like are answered. And then number 1 is answered, but the rest she does not have answers for.
So you're looking at the reading ACT exam for fences?
Yes.
Okay, so I don't see number 1 being answered.
Oh, she's got a key down at the very bottom.
Oh, got it.
And so yeah, the answers are in the key at the end of the test.
Got it. Okay. So, I know that you know she's taking the curriculum that I had and adopting it. So just for like context, I think all of this exam, let me make sure, except for the Stanford Prison Project text, so the third text, is all my old exam, which is fine. So what are you thinking about when you're coaching her and you're looking at the assessment and exemplar? Like what is your move here?
I think she needs to take the test and make sure that she knows what the answers to these questions are so that she can incorporate questions that mimic these into her lessons so that she's teaching what her students will be assessed on.
I also think that I think she's ready for this. As she takes the test, noting the no's and the do's.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't have to be an elaborate no-do for every single question, but I think like a basic no-do for her metacognitive process as she's taking the test will really help her when she's going to do the rest of the unit internalization. So that's phase 1, right? That's not even phase 1, that's before phase 1 of the focus areas, right? So in your unit internalization, is that where you want to stop or do you want to look at other things?
I think that was the biggest thing that I was focusing on, but another thing that the unit internalization process feels like a process that goes throughout the quarter, like because it's all connected to what she's teaching on the daily basis. And so I'm thinking like a clear order of like what she's actually teaching is another thing that I want to look at and zero in on.
I'm not sure I agree with that statement that it's a continual process. I think the way I understand it, it's a before the unit, and then the internalization of lessons is like the thread, right?
Yeah.
So this lives at the front end.
Okay.
And then you're gonna pull a thread all the way through, but this work, this unit internalization, I think especially when you think about like the practice of this is intended to be like the unit launch, right? Like this should happen before. But I do think what you're saying about the aims, do you think that lives in lesson planning internalization?
It probably does, but like that's what I meant by like it all ties together, because if you're going to revise it in your lessons, you also have to revise it in your unit internalization as well.
Yeah. I think that for the purposes of focus, it's not a bad thing to think about just the assessment, but I also think you can show her, and this can be part of a model, you can show her how when she looks at an assessment item, answers it, thinks about the know and do, that becomes an aim.
Yeah.
And so you can pull it through and show her that this process is going to be what connects everything together.
Yeah. I'm looking in her internalization documents. I don't see a place where she was required to do know and do. So is that something that we should be adding in to her documents?
You tell me.
I mean, I think it's beneficial. And I think it would be helpful. I'm also like, I feel like it's something to keep in mind, but I don't know if I would want to like give her an action step for break down everything in a know and do statements. I feel like that's too much.
I think that the know and do statements as they stand for internalization are different for know and do for people who are writing from scratch for a reason. I think that being able to articulate know and do matters, especially when we're talking about the stuff we're talking about with Joanna's planning, which is the alignment, which is the skills, and making sure she's teaching students the skills for the questions they're going to have to answer. That's know and do.
Yeah.
Right? So what I'm seeing is a thread through starting with the assessment item and walking all the way through the planning process to an aim. I think that should be the focus of your internalization meeting, is showing her one of those, doing one with her, and then having her lead one.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I think if you're looking at the internalization meeting protocol, right? Norm on the big picture and assessment of the unit, right? This means you saying your assessments are incomplete because you don't have exemplars, right? You've already named successes. You said that her narratives are really strong, which is awesome. Do you just want to like quickly role play you naming the successes to stamp it for yourself, and then we'll move on to the model and planning that?
Sure.
Okay, so how is the see the success going to sound?
So as I was looking at your unit internalization documents, thank you for submitting them on time, by the way, I appreciate it. I was noticing the really thoughtful work that you put into your unit narratives. This is going to be really beneficial in helping you launch these units. You put in a lot of work to talk about why this unit matters for students, why the students should care about what they're learning, and you clearly laid out what you want students to get out of the unit, what the essential questions and enduring understandings will be. And so by doing this strong work at the front,
don't tell me, ask me.
By doing this strong work at the front, what is the impact of that work?
I think that when kids can see the big picture, they're able to be
Yeah.
Great. You were gonna say it, right? Not ask it? Okay, good. I'm glad I heard that right. So just anytime you can do that, right? Put it back onto Joanna. I think that that's gonna be really critical in driving her development, is like getting her to articulate it. Okay, and then narrow the focus. We're gonna think through a model. What does it sound like for you to articulate like the action that we've articulated? Just run through that. Like, how are you gonna lay out to her, here's what we're gonna focus on.
Right. So as I was looking at your assessments that you submitted, I did notice that they are incomplete because they don't have exemplars. So the focus of our meeting today is we're gonna look at those assessments, and then am I just gonna do one item with her?
I think that we should, let's get clear on this. So I think we need to, I think the most sticky part of the learning here is showing her how that is helpful. When you have the exemplar and you've thought about the know and do, you can then write an aim. Because I think it's one thing just to say you have to have exemplars for your answer, but that's not happening right now, right? And we can tell her you have to answer the questions, but unless she understands why, you know? So I think the learning for Joanna in this meeting is going to be when you answer a test item and you break down the know and do that is involved in getting that item correct, you can really clearly write an aim for yourself, right? Like that's the thread. So I think it's exemplars and pulling out the knowledge and skills for the test items.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, so run that and then we'll think through the model.
All right. So our area of focus today is going to fall in your exams that you submitted. I was looking at them and I did notice that the exemplars are not complete. So what we need to do is go through, determine the exemplary response for the questions, and we're going to use those exemplary responses to write know and do statements so that you're clear on the knowledge and skills that students need to have in order to be successful in your lessons, and we can use that to write aims for your daily lessons.
Yeah, that sounds good. Great. Okay, so do you think a think aloud or a show call is the way to move this further with Joanna?
Show call of...
So she doesn't have know and do statements for us to look at, and she doesn't have answers, and there's not really like a essay response here.
Yeah.
So I think that means a show call isn't the right move.
Yeah.
That was a hackneyed question, sorry. So I think a think aloud is the way to go.
Yeah.
What do you need to do for that?
So am I just strictly like modeling here for her? Okay, so what I would need to do is locate a question on the exam that does not have an answer for it. Need to go through, talk her through the process of how I would answer the question. And as I would do this, do you think it'd be a good idea to have her write like know and do statements while I'm doing it? Like write down the questions I'm asking myself? Or do you think I should do that?
Call your shot, you could do that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think just like kids, like, I'm gonna think aloud and I want you to tell me what I do. So you can do the same thing with Joanna, like, I'm gonna think aloud how to answer this question, and I want you to use my think aloud to write the know and do statements.
Okay. Yeah.
Do you wanna try that live, or do you wanna think through it first?
I would prefer to think through it first. Let's see. Yeah, we worked on this exam together, but we worked with standards tagging instead of writing know and do statements. So I've done some of these questions already.
So look, find one you're familiar with.
Yeah. Yeah, the first one that I did was number 1.
Okay, she answered number 1 though.
Oh, she did. Let's see. Okay, I can move on to...
But number 2 is similar, isn't it?
I think so. Yeah, it's another
WME.
Yeah. Word meaning.
It's a slightly different kind of word meaning question.
Yeah. Oh, these lines are not numbered. So, whenever I'm doing these, my steps to take would be to respond to the question.
Am I me or Joanna right now?
Oh, you're you.
Okay.
I'm asking you. So I'm just thinking through like how I should plan this for whenever I take this actually live with Joanna. So like before I do this meeting, do I need to take this whole entire test?
No,
Okay.
I think that you should, and we're gonna plan one of them now. And I think that if we have time, we'll plan. Hopefully, I got all that. We're gonna plan one of them now, and hopefully, if we have time, we'll plan the one that you're gonna walk Joanna through.
Okay.
Okay.
Great.
I really hope it got all the conversation we just had. Okay.
You should. All right. So yeah, we can do number 2.
All right.
About apartheid.
Okay.
As used in line 11, the word apartheid most nearly means. The lines are not numbered, but it does say. I found it. The film strikes out as history because it ignores the true story of how baseball's apartheid system was dismantled.
You've already taken some steps.
I found the word in context.
Yep. What else did you do?
Read the question. Found the word in context.
You made some other decisions just now. I think there were.
The lines were not numbered. And
I'm looking at what you read and how you chose to read what you read.
oh. I didn't even think about that. I just started with the clause. That ending clause of the sentence. The film strikes out as history because it ignores a true story. Or that last sentence.
But that was a decision you made, right? Like you realized that this is a full clause, so you only need that much.
Yeah.
You don't need the whole sentence.
And I guess that is a decision I made. That just feels so natural
It does.
that I don't think about
The kids
it.
don't do it.
Yeah.
So you need to know what a clause is. You need to identify what? What would that sound like? Identify how much you need.
Yeah, like identify what parts, like how much of the clause is necessary to understand the word's meaning.
Of the sentence.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, what else are you gonna do?
I'm gonna go back to my choices.
Already?
Well, yes, because I know what apartheid means. but if I didn't know what it meant.
Yeah. So
yeah,
you've got the film strikes out as history because it ignores the true story of how baseball's apartheid system was dismantled.
Yeah. So I might need to go back up in the text and look at what that whole paragraph is talking about. Like, if needed, like, seek further information from the text.
Look at context, paragraph, or section.
Yeah. Because it's talking about Jackie Robinson.
Color line.
Yeah.
Racist
obstacles. Yeah. Chadwick Boseman.
Okay, so this gives us an idea that we're talking about segregation and race. Okay, and then it ignores the true story of how baseball's apartheid system was dismantled. So what do we have to do to define apartheid?
Yeah, use that context that we just looked at. And so we know that the system was dismantled, so it's something that needs to be taken away. So I'm using like other words as my context clues.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking like, what is something in baseball that was taken away? The racial segregation of the leagues.
So you're using the other words in section to define the word we need.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, then,
Look at my choices.
Yep. and we can get really granular about this
Mm-hmm.
if we want to, but I think that's an ACT skill at this point and not
Yeah.
a reading skill, so I think we're
Mhm.
good here. All right, so what you have, find the word, identify how much of the sentence is necessary, look at the context,
Mm-hmm.
use other words in the section to define the word, and look at the answer choices. I
Mhm.
think that's great. What other no's did we need besides a clause?
Context clues.
Mm-hmm.
Specific vocabulary. Like I needed to know what dismantled meant to understand what it was saying.
Yeah,
So
I'm trying to think about how to make that transferable.
yeah.
I'll just write vocab for now, we'll come back to that.
Okay.
That's the highest leverage thing ever.
Mm-hmm.
One other thing that I was thinking of that I would add is this idea of like cue words. So like because,
Mm-hmm.
right? So the because helps us to figure out that this second part of this clause, the film strikes out as history because it ignores the true story, right? So if you're ignoring a story, that means it's not good history,
Mm-hmm.
which is what this is saying. And the because is telling us that this thing is being ignored.
Mm-hmm.
And what's the thing being ignored? Okay, using the rest of the sentence, the racial issue, so I know apartheid has something to do with a racial issue, right?
Yeah.
And so using what did I say? Cue words?
Yeah, keywords.
I would add that. Identify the section. Keywords. So that would be like because, yet,
Mm-hmm.
but, things like that.
Okay.
That's not required to get this right, but
Mhm.
sometimes it is.
Yeah.
All right. So we've got our no and our do statements.
Mm-hmm.
What comes next?
We're gonna use them to create an aim. So we need to articulate we need to kind of consolidate them. Like what skill are students learning through these statements?
Mm-hmm. And it's word meanings, right?
Yeah.
But I also think that you can use like these can become by
Mhm.
clauses
Yeah.
in a name, depending on how granular of work you're doing on a day, right? So
Mhm.
like students can define words in context by isolating a clause,
Mhm.
right? Students can define words in context by using keywords. So I think that it depends on how big or small of a chunk you want to take. But I think, yeah, word meanings is
Yeah.
defining words in context. Okay, so what does the aim sound like when she's putting this into practice?
Students will be able to define words in context by look at the steps. I always want to say using context clues, but that's
I mean,
it's,
that could be one.
yeah, because there's different strategies, and there's different steps that students can take here. So by using context clues, by using keywords.
Mm-hmm.
There's other things. How can I consider?
I'm looking now at some of the other questions
Uh-huh.
because when I added that, this is like a teacher brain thing that a moment that I'm having.
Okay.
I want to make sure because remember I said like this is a thing that happens, but it wasn't happening in that specific question.
Yeah.
I want to make sure it's a thing that happens on this test.
Okay.
So we're not teaching them something that they're not going to be tested on. I don't think it is actually. That might be my bad. Sanctuary. 6. Yeah, I'm not seeing a lot of words in context questions where keywords are critical to answering it. So this might actually be a red herring that I added and we didn't need to. Because I'm thinking about like the complexity of texts. And these texts aren't all super complex.
Yeah.
Let me check the one, because there's a number 2, right? Yeah, word apartheid. Myopia, line 38. Let me just search for that. Yeah, no, you don't need any keywords there either. Okay, so that was my fault. So I don't think that keywords is the way to go on this test. All right, so you have thought through the no and do statement. You got the right answer. What's the right answer?
Racial segregation.
Yep. You've thought through the no and do statements. You've got the right answer. You got the aim that comes out of it. All right. What questions are you gonna ask after that to Joanna?
What is the impact of having a completed assessment at the start of your unit?
And what?
How does that? Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, what answer are you hoping for her to articulate?
That having that will give her a clear picture of what students need to know and do in order to be successful on daily lessons and on their assessment.
And then have you not brought up with her yet the alignment in her lessons?
Yes.
You have? Hopefully then she makes that connection.
Yeah.
Right? And then when I have a clear picture, then my lessons have a clear picture and there's alignment there too. Okay, so you've thought through your model. We've got about 9 minutes left.
Okay.
Do you want to practice your model or do you want to think through the we do one that you're going to do with Joanna?
I'd rather think through the we do.
Okay, so let's pick a standard that's not word meanings. Let's go in a different direction.
Okay. Got question 4, the point of view.
That's a great one.
That works for me.
Okay, which statement best describes the article's point of view towards Robin's legacy? Great, how are we going to answer this question? And do you want me to do this again and take notes, or do you want to take notes on this?
Yeah, maybe not. My notebook is somewhere.
That's okay, I have extra paper. All right. What are your no's and do's for this?
So for this one, I would need to go back into the text and look for what the author's saying about Robinson.
What specifically about Robinson?
His legacy.
Yep. So what thing are you doing here?
I have to read the whole text and look for point of view.
you said about Robinson's legacy,
Mm-hmm.
and so what you've done here is you've identified keywords in the question that you're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
So, and look for keywords. All right, what comes next?
I would write what, well, read the text, look for keywords, annotate what I'm noticing. For like the connotation
Mm-hmm.
of the words, or like what they're saying about Robinson.
Mm-hmm. I think connotation is really specific.
Looking at like what kind of legacy he left. Was it a legacy where they respect him, they think he was great? Like, hang on, my test taking strategies are different than what we teach here.
What do you mean?
Like, I read the choices and then I go back into the text and like eliminate it. Like, that is how I speed through reading ACTs.
Mm-hmm.
But I know that we teach don't look at the choices.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm trying to think through what would I do if I couldn't look at the choices first.
Mm-hmm. And I think,
And
I mean, that's the difference between like somebody who's a really fast reader and somebody who's struggling, right? If you look at the choices, it's going to mess up what you're doing when you go back in.
Yeah.
I think like what I'm thinking about is, so, okay, we're looking for legacy. So we're looking for like what he leaves behind, right? So at the end of the passage, during and after his playing days, okay, that's legacy, joined the Civil Rights Crusade, speaking out in speeches, interviews, in his column against racial justice. Okay, so that's one thing we're saying. He joined the Civil Rights Crusade.
He viewed sports celebrity as a platform from which to challenge racism.
Many sports writers consider Robinson too angry and vocal about racism in baseball and society. So there's a positive and a sort of a negative.
No team offered him a position as coach, manager, executive.
Negative. Lent his name and prestige to several business ventures. Positive. All right, so what are we pulling apart now?
There are different ideas of his legacy.
We're looking for patterns, right?
Yeah. Fell on hard times, dimmed Robinson's confidence in black capitalism as strategy for racial immigration. Constant presence at rights rallies.
Okay. I think we have enough information now to answer the question. So there's positive and negatives, but it all had to do with sort of civil rights, right? So then if we look at the answers, what's the answer?
I think I would have to read this whole passage to get the answer.
I think that based on what we articulated, it's D, right? Because it's all about social justice. His legacy is about social justice.
Yeah. So I'm missing the point about like movies focusing. Like there would have to be a spot that we read about movies.
There is.
Yeah. Because I couldn't have gotten that just out of what we mentioned.
So there is.
Mhm.
The film ignores Smith's key role as an agitator and leader of a long crusade to integrate baseball.
Mhm.
During and after his playing days, he joins the Civil Rights Crusade. So there's a lot of. Robinson recognized that this dismantling of baseball's color line was a triumph of both a man and a movement.
Mhm.
So there's a lot earlier, but I think
Yeah.
even what we did look at, like,
Mhm.
it's all about civil rights.
Mhm.
And the negative stuff is baseball, right? He wasn't offered a job as a baseball coach.
Yeah.
So I think 1 is wrong,
Mhm.
right? A is wrong, rather. I think C is wrong because
Mhm.
that's not what it's focused on.
Yeah.
I think B is too positive,
Mhm.
and I think D is closest to what we talked about.
Okay.
So we looked for patterns, and then how did we arrive at an answer?
We looked at our choices and used the process of elimination.
I think also though, so thinking about not just a test strategy, but like a reading strategy, how did we decide for ourselves that this was the best picture of point of view in this passage, right? Like, why was point of view not that Robinson was a baseball star? Why was it? Go ahead.
Well, everybody knows he was a baseball star. That's not like a specific, like, this is what I think about him. That's just like a fact, objectively. So are we or are we not using the choices to help us make our answer right now?
Yes and no. I know you hate that answer.
Okay. Yes, I don't like that.
I know. I don't want us to do no and do statements that are purely ACT testing.
Yeah.
But I also am aware that this is how we're testing the kids. So I kind of have to live in both worlds. I think what I would do is I would say we look for patterns and then we choose the answer that best matches the content and connotation of our analysis of pattern, right? So like we're choosing the one that matches what we said it was focused on and matches the way, like, positive or negative of the focus. So like, because that would work even if there were no answer choices, right? So like point of view on Robinson's legacy, well, we have to define his legacy and we have to say how he felt about Robinson's legacy, and that's the connotation. Right? So answer has both content and connotation, I think, is what I'm looking to capture here.
Okay.
Because that's really what point of view is. All right. How are we doing on time? Oh, we gotta stop. Okay, so summing up really fast. What is your goal for this unit internalization meeting?
Help Joanna get through that process model the process for her to where she has exam exemplars and she can use those to write no and do statements so that she can use those to create her daily aims.
How will you know you've been successful?
Whenever we do the work and I look at the work and I'm seeing that alignment.
And you're starting to give feedback on her plans?
Yes.
Where there's alignment.
And I'm seeing alignment. Yeah.
What can I do to help you between now and the meeting?
I don't think I really need anything specific. I just need to make sure I can look through these exams and write no and do statements without being like, just look at your answer choices and go back in the text.
Yeah. And if you want me to take a look at it, you can always shoot them to me and I'll take a look at them.
Okay. Yeah, that might be helpful because I am not used to this test taking strategy.
Yep. But you're doing fine.
Thank you.
I'm excited. Let me know how it goes.
Yeah. I will.
And don't forget to tape it.
Okay.
Yay.
Yes. Yay.
Thank you.
Go team.
Go team. That was productive.
Thank you. May I keep these?
Of course.
Yay.